Good afternoon, I'm Gary King in London at Elephant and Castle. The A3 on Kennington Park Road currently closed in both directions. Long delays after an accident between Canterbury Place and Penton Place. In Buckinghamshire, the northbound M40, there's a lane closed and the entry slip road to the M25 partly blocked. Delays there after an accident. In Staffordshire, the M6 southbound lane closed and long delays due to recovery work after a broken down lorry just before junction 16 at Stoke-on-Trent. Delays though back towards 17 at Sandbach. Greater Manchester, the southbound M6, there's a lane closed and delays after a breakdown between junction 26 at the Orrell interchange and junction 25 at Bryn, and buses instead of trains on Southern between Redhill and Tunbridge following a staff shortage.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
You could be joining the Great British Giveaway list of winners with your chance to grab a fantastic £50,000 in tax-free cash.
My name is Cliff.
And my name is Julie, and we won 25,000. I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, a new report says that police intelligence missed key clues when it came to the aftermath of Southport. Why were the police on the back foot in your mind? And how do you think they actually went on to deal with it? Also, new year and new train strikes. Ugh. What do you think to this? Do you support the unions? Do you think the Labour Party can actually stop these strikes in their tracks or not? And nearly £1 billion of extra funding to tackle homelessness. Will this amount of money solve that problem? Is it all about money? Where should that money be spent? You tell me. Great panel for you tonight. Matt Goodwin, the pollster and academic, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour minister. And there's lots we need to discuss. I also want to ask you, do you think politicians are too kind of like local, looking down focused? Do they lack the bigger picture? Many people saying now that we need more Winston Churchill types in our politics. Do you agree with that or not? Before we get stuck into all of that, let's cross live for the 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you and good evening. It's just gone 6 o'clock. These are your latest headlines from the GB newsroom. Pleas of not guilty have been entered on behalf of Axel Rudder-Buchanan after he failed to reply when arraigned at Liverpool Crown Court on 3 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder following the deaths of 3 young girls in a knife attack at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in Southport. Rudder-Buchanan appeared via video link in court as pleas of not guilty were entered to all 16 counts on the indictment. The leader of the opposition, Kemi Badenoch, has accused the Prime Minister of playing politics with the WASPy women. The Prime Minister is now facing pressure to give MPs a vote on his government's decision to rule out compensation for women affected by the changes to the state pension age. Here's what Sir Keir Starmer had to say at Prime Minister's questions earlier on.
Serious issue. It's a complex issue. The research, as he knows, shows that 90% of those impacted knew about the changes that were taking place. And I'm afraid to say the taxpayer simply can't afford the tens of billions of pounds in compensation when the evidence does show that 90% of those impacted did know about it. That's because of the state of our economy.
Elsewhere today, UK inflation has risen to its highest level since March, according to official figures. The Office for National Statistics said inflation rose to 2.6% in November, up from 2.3% the previous month. That is the highest rate since March and the second rise within 2 months. The figures come ahead of the Bank of England's latest decision on interest rates tomorrow. The ONS's chief economist said the drive was risen by an increase in petrol prices. Our reporter Will Hollis spoke to people in Melton Mowbray about the figures.
Bill just before Christmas has come to £240. This time last year our energy bill was, I think my partner said it was £150, so that's an increase of near on £90 straight away.
Well, I think food prices more than anything else, and of course fuel's just gone up this last week, hasn't it? Just what we didn't need coming up to Christmas.
Really difficult. You can't actually get your children things they've asked for, and you have to kind of make up in other ways. But I suppose Christmas is more about spending time with the family, so I try and instill that in my children.
Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Katie Bowen. Let's go back to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that, Katie. My name is Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you all company till 7 o'clock tonight here on Dewbs & Co. Alongside me, my panel. Two of my favourites. We're in a bit of a giddy mood in here tonight, everybody. I think it's because we know now we're on the last kind of run to Christmas. We feel a bit hyper, I think we do here. Alongside me, Matt Goodwin, the pollster and academic, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour minister. Good evening, gents.
Good evening.
You're very welcome tonight, as are each and every single one of you at home. What's on your mind tonight, everybody? Get in touch all the usual ways. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Tweet or X me at GB News, or go to the website gbnews.com/yoursay and talk to each other and to me. Lots we need to discuss. Before I do get into the menu for tonight, I will be kicking off in a minute about that police report when it comes to Southport. But WASPy, there's been a big backlash to that decision last night. We covered it at length on the programme. Do you support the Labour Party in that decision not to pay the compensation?
For practical reasons, yeah, it's about money. The cost of the payments is £10.3 billion. That's a huge sum of public money. And when you look at the research, 90% of the affected women were aware of the change. So you'd be compensating by several £1,000s women who've got no claim, who were aware of the change. And I just don't think you can justify £10.3 billion with all the other pressures for public spending.
I've got to say, it has created quite a divide among many people. Even last night, so many of you was getting in touch. You was absolutely livid. Have you calmed down? Do you still feel as passionate as you did about it last night? Get in touch and let me know. But for now, a new report out today has shown that police officers were unprepared, apparently, for the scale of what followed the Southport stabbings of those 3 little girls. The report was conducted, also found that there were gaps in intelligence linked to social media and the dark web. Just to put some context on this, 300 police officers were injured in the aftermath of those Southport stabbings. Matt Goodwin, what do you say to some of the suggestions about unpreparedness and so on?
Well, I think the good news story in Britain, and it's strange to start with this point perhaps, but the good news story, and I've no doubt that Bill will disagree with me on this, is that actually, unlike many other European countries, we don't really have a big and well-organised far-right scene. And I think that's one of the success stories of Britain, actually. At the same time, I'm instinctively sceptical about this report, because if you read the write-up in newspapers like The Guardian, what they do there is there's a lot of slippage. So first there's a story about being insufficiently prepared to tackle the far right. Then suddenly we're in a discussion about Nigel Farage and reform, as if that's somehow connected to the far right. And there's not much discussion at all about the parallel issues here around Southport, like mass immigration, broken borders, the fact that many people in this country feel unsafe, the fact we're spending £5.4 billion every year on our broken asylum system, on hotels and accommodation for illegal migrants. So I am sceptical of the framing on this, actually.
Bill, are you sceptical or not?
Good God. Good God, Matt and I are close to agreement on this issue.
Blimey, that's a wrap. There you go.
Christmas is here,
I'm
Bill.
not sure about the report. You know, I don't think the evidence is there. Actually, the police and the security services have, for years, identified the far right as a security threat. The argument that there was a lack of preparedness, I'm not convinced. Should the police have been more effectively monitoring social media? They do that. Maybe they should have done it sharper. I mean, one of the recommendations that I do agree with is that there's a need for a national coordinator to redeploy anti-riot police across the country, and that probably makes sense. But one of their recommendations worries me, and that's that the police should intervene on misinformation. I think that would be seen as the police intervening in the political debate, and it would undermine their neutrality.
But, I mean, this is the age-old debate at the moment, isn't it, about the police are always intervening. Many people would say intervening a bit too much when it comes to social media and some of the things and thoughts that people are putting on there. Would you like to see more police intervention on social media?
No. So the report recommends, for example, that the propagators of false information during the riots, like Nigel Farage, the police should have directly intervened and criticised.
Well, hang on a minute. There was no misinformation by Nigel Farage. What he did is he asked questions that millions of people in the country were asking.
I think for a Member of Parliament to ask those questions when, in the middle of a crisis, without any evidence that there was any information being misheld, was irresponsible. But...
Well, he asked, are we being told the truth, is what he asked. And what we've since discovered is it looks like we probably weren't being told the truth.
I don't think that's the case. But I'm actually saying for the police in the midst of that to intervene and politically challenge someone like Nigel Farage, I think would undermine their neutrality. And that's why I'm sceptical about the report, and I think it's unfair on the police, who did a damn good job in very difficult circumstances.
Do you know what I'd like to see, Michelle, is a newspaper article, rather than it saying police miss clues about dangers of far right, I would like to see an investigation into when did Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper know the things that we've since discovered about the Southport atrocities, because when's that...
a shred of evidence to back up that assertion, Matt.
I haven't made an assertion. I've just said I'd like to see an invest...
No, you have.
Bill, I'm asking...
Come on, you're a very clever, educated man.
I'm asking a question. When did people know what we have since discovered? I'd like to see an investigation into that. That's a reasonable question. Millions of people are asking that up and down this country. It's not unreasonable to ask that, Bill. That's what's called finding the truth.
I mean, I've got to say, what you're referring to is in relation to the Southport attacker. And, of course, all of that stuff will likely come out in the trial that commences the same day, actually, as Donald Trump's inauguration in January. This whole point about the police and how involved they need to be when it comes to social media, because that's off the back of a lot of this. Of course, many people have been jailed, many for a long time. One very sadly lost his life in prison. Do you think the police need to be more or less involved on social media?
I think what we've seen this year, at the end of this year, is the police, which, remember, should be a neutral, independent organisation in public life, has come dangerously close to being politicised, if not, some people would say, actually being politicised. And we've seen that in the aftermath of the 7th of October with the policing of marches. We've seen it with this perception of two-tier policing around, well, you can march and protest if you're Black Lives Matter, but you can't if you're a member of the white British majority. And there's a risk inherent. I think we can all sense it, whether we're on the left or the right, that the police are gradually being politicised. So to suggest that they should then play an even more active role in policing what people say on social media, makes me very nervous because, again, many of the people who have gone to prison after the Southport atrocities, based on things they've written on Facebook and X and so forth, personally, I've read some of those things, I've followed those cases very closely, and I've not always been convinced that those people should have been sent to jail, not least because at the very same time we've not sent to jail committed... we've not sent to jail people who have downloaded indecent images of children. We've released criminals onto the streets to make room for these so-called, social media offenders. And I, like many people watching the show, I'm deeply, deeply concerned about the Orwellian censorship that seems to be descending over our society and which we've seen mature this year.
I think it's important to distinguish the issues. Should the police monitor social media to find groups, individuals who are organising, who are proposing to incite violence? Yes, they should. Should they, however, intervene in social media and contradict people publicly? No, I don't think that's their role.
But Bill, you've just suggested yourself that what, for example, Nigel Farage suggested was misinformation. But who is going to define what is misinformation? The police? Do you honestly trust the police and the security services to do that?
I'm not advocating that the police should have intervened on Nigel Farage. Right. I am saying that what Nigel Farage put out in the midst of the most appalling riots we've seen in this country was grossly irresponsible.
Well, because one thing we've learned since these atrocities, which I think is interesting, what we've learned in Parliament, is that actually there is a lot of misinformation going on, but it isn't going on at the hands of people on X and Facebook. It's going on at the heart of the state, because as Rupert Lowe and other MPs have revealed, the Home Office, the Ministry of Justice, the government are not releasing information to ordinary people about how, for example, illegal migration is impacting crime, legal migration is impacting welfare, immigration is impacting housing. What's been most revealing to me over the last 3 months is watching what's coming back from these government departments when MPs like Rupert Lowe are asking questions and they're saying, well, we don't think people want this information. We're not going to make it available. It's outrageous. That's misinformation. Well, that is a state misinforming people about crucial issues.
It's not misinformation. It's not giving the full information.
It's wrong.
And I would actually agree that information, properly pulled together, should be made available. And I think in time, I hope it will be.
Good. Good man, Bill.
Blimey.
End of year, and we agree.
I was going to say, blimey. I said, didn't I? I started this programme by saying there's a sense of giddiness in the air. I think it's because we're on the final stretch now to Christmas. But there you go. We've started and ended that topic with Bill and Matt agreeing. I never thought I'd see the
Won't
day.
last.
And I was just about to say, something tells me that that's soon about to change, probably the next section when I start talking to you about train strikes, because we're going into a new year, and you guessed it, that means that we're going into a round of new strikes. Train drivers, do you still support these guys or not? Get in touch and let me know your thoughts.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Joined by international life coach Cheryl Findlay, who has joined forces with a Liverpool business owner, Kate Hill, of sustainable sportswear brand Lola Star, to empower women and inspire women across the nation. And to celebrate this partnership with the new Lola Star collection, the two will be hosting an exclusive event next Saturday.
The sportswear brand was launched after, well, your story. You lost how much weight?
So 16 stone, which is over £220, which
wow.
I know is quite significant. But during that kind of decade-long journey, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what it takes to be successful, to be happy, to be well, and to just live an incredible life every day.
Are you giving them goals to work towards or helping them structure their life?
Yeah, so I don't give out goals, absolutely not. It's all about whatever an individual wants. So what we do to begin with is we understand, like, where are you now? Where are you thriving? Where do you feel really happy and excited in your life? And what's lacking? Like, where would you like to feel better? Where would you like to improve? And then we take it from there.
So I'd love to take that on board. I'd love to be my true self and fulfil my potential. So have you got any practical tips on how to do that?
Yeah, so we start with clarity, right? Like, you need to know, it's such a busy, fast-paced world we live in. There's so much sensory overload. You know, it'd be so easy to be distracted. So we need to kind of quiet all that noise down and start with, where do I want to focus? Pick 2 or 3 things. Where do I want to focus? And then we define the goal. What would I like that area of my life to look, not just look like, but feel like? And then we take it from there. So that's where you would start. I actually had a cancer diagnosis in 2019.
Aye.
And I just decided if I was going to be lucky enough to be on the other side of it, I wasn't going to play small anymore.
GB News, the people's... This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, Michelle Dewberry keeping you company till 7 o'clock here on Dewbs & Co alongside me, Matt Goodwin and Bill Rammell. Lots of people have got in touch with me about this WASPy thing. One of my viewers on Twitter says, can you ask Bill, if we've not got any money or enough money, how come we are still able to contribute to whether it's foreign wars, foreign aid and so on?
Because spending money on foreign aid actually helps us. If you take the example of the money the government just committed to the deal with Iraq, that will help to shore up the borders in Iraq and stop illegal migrants coming to this country. It's a matter of self-interest.
Why are you laughing, Bill? Why are you laughing at that? Do you not agree with that?
Because I think for many people who are going through the most severe cost of living crisis this country's had pretty much since the Second World War, with inflation, as we've learned today, inflation's up again. We know 25, 26, 27 are going to be really difficult years, growth rates of 1.5%. I think the idea that we are sending so much money overseas, the amounts that we're sending, now finding 11 million for Syria, 100 million for Northern Africa. I think many people... Okay. I think many... Bill, let me finish. Bill, let me finish.
No, I think... For Syria, and then welcome the migrants coming to this country.
Can I just finish the thing? Because we started this conversation with you also saying we couldn't find 10 billion for women pensioners.
Which I think you agree with.
So what I'm saying is I think these all reflect political priorities and choices. And I don't think these are the choices that the British people would necessarily support.
So you would agree with £10.3 billion now for the WASPy women?
I'm saying
You'd
I would
prioritise that, Matt, if you were in government.
I'm saying I would much rather us generally prioritise issues that are relating to... No, the issues that are relating to our national community.
So don't duck the question.
I'm not, I'm saying...
get that compensation?
I'm saying I would much rather have a debate about being able to award that money than it being not possible at all.
Well, there you go. Look, let's talk money then, shall we? Because someone who doesn't think they get enough of it are the train managers. I find this quite depressing, actually, because we're going into another new year. And, of course, you guessed it, that means that we're going to have more strikes. This time is Avanti West Coast. Now, there were some strikes planned originally. Those ones have been put on pause, but there's a new set that have been announced now, New Year's Eve and the 2nd of January. Strap yourselves in as well, because it's going to be every Sunday from the 12th of Jan to the 25th of May. What's going on, Bill Rammell? I thought you guys were going to fix this in a nanosecond.
Well, there are no longer any nationwide strikes taking place, either in the railway industry or in the National Health Service. And those strikes had gone on for about a year under the last government.
And how did you stop them, Bill?
We stopped them by sitting down and negotiating a deal. And the deal that was done for the train drivers was a 3-year deal at below the rate of inflation for the 3 years it covered. And I think most people not having national strikes, and particularly in the health service, where there were 1 million operations cancelled, that is a good move. What we're talking about here is a regional dispute. It's not, as I understand it, about pay. It's about terms and conditions and rest days. And I very much hope that negotiations will take place and the strikes will be stopped.
Do you think Labour are a soft touch when it comes to unions, and that's why people are sitting there going, actually, let's put ourselves into gear to try and commence more strike action?
No, I don't. And if you look at the track record of Labour governments, they negotiate very hard with the unions. They negotiate fairly, and I think they negotiate more fairly than Conservative governments, and we don't want never-ending strikes. But it's not a soft touch, and there's not money growing on trees. But as I say, this isn't about money, it's about terms and conditions.
Matt Goodwin?
Well, I just think for many people out there in the country who are looking at public services that aren't working, looking at train lines that aren't working, looking at a country that isn't working, it's again more stress, more chaos, more more impediments to just going around their daily life. And I think, looking at the numbers that came out this week too on the Labour government, 2/3 of people in this country, according to Ipsos Mori, expect the economy over the next 12 months to get worse. 70% are dissatisfied with how Keir Starmer is managing the country. And by the way, Kemi Badenoch isn't exactly setting the country on fire. She's on -15, her ratings. And I think for many people, it's just more exasperation, more frustration. Why isn't this country working? Why can't public services be delivered? Why are trains never on time? Why are trains never clean, by the way? That's something, again, I think a lot of people ask themselves. So, yeah, not good news.
But let's have some fairness and rationality. Labour has been in power for 5 months. We inherited a shocking situation from the last government. It was never going to be turned around in 5 months. The judgment people need to make is whether the investment from the budget that's gone into public services begins to make a difference.
But Bill, as you know, it's not acceptable to say that anymore, in that what we've also seen in 5 months... hang on, you had your bit, hang on. What we've also seen in 5 months are political choices that many people out there struggle with. For example, giving inflation-busting pay rises to people in the public sector while taking winter fuel payments off British pensioners. People struggle with those choices, OK? Now, yes, difficult inheritance. I'm not here to defend the Tories. I'm not a Tory supporter. But as a result of that, people at home are scratching their heads saying, well, you can smash family farms to save 500 million. You can take winter fuel payments to save £1.5 billion. But you're also spending £5.5 billion on a broken asylum system.
And this is where we need to re-enter the real world. We're not smashing family farms. You know, Matthew, farmers can pass on £3 million to their beneficiaries without paying a penny of inheritance tax, and that's a much, much better deal than anyone else in society. And under the old regime, the old tax break for farmers, 54% of people who got the benefit weren't even farmers. They were just very rich people who were gaming the system.
Politics is about choices. Yeah. And we've all seen in 5 months. We've all seen in 5 months what Labour's choices are.
Investing in the health service, investing in homelessness, getting local government settlements working so that they can fill the potholes and they can begin to tackle the social care crisis. But it ain't going to happen overnight.
Are we having local elections in May, or is that not happening?
I believe we are.
Right, well, I hope so.
Well, some of them might not happen. And I think that's what Matt's referring to, because you talk about reorganisation. And then discussions yesterday and the day before were actually, we're going to potentially restructure things. We'll press pause on those council elections, which, of course, caused the likes of Nigel Farage to pop up and say that that was the Labour Party trying to basically thwart democracy because Labour were running scared of reform.
I'd wait and see what happens. I don't believe those elections will be cancelled. The elections next May are the county council elections, which are by far the biggest local authorities in the country, and I think those elections need to take place.
And you say about inheritance tax, but you will also be aware that Dan Needham, I would call him quite a pro-Labour tax advisor, quite a high-profile guy. He was originally, from what I could see, quite supportive of Labour's inheritance tax plans when it comes to farms. Even he's come out now and said that essentially this isn't the right lever, it's not the right level, it needs to be increased massively, he said, to 20 million.
Well...
And he's a fellow on your side.
The Office for Budget Responsibility and the Institute of Fiscal Studies have both backed up the Treasury figure that only 2,000 farms out of 209,000 farms will be affected. And as I say, this is a much, much better deal than anyone else in society gets. That's not unfairness. That's not smashing family farms. It's contributing from very wealthy people.
Did you say
towards the public.
Bill, if this isn't smashing family farms, then why, when I walked down Whitehall last week, was Westminster absolutely gridlocked with ordinary farming families and their children protesting against this policy? Because if this was just hitting the ultra-rich and the wealthy, I don't think Whitehall and Westminster would have looked like that.
Because what I would urge is farmers actually look at the detail of the proposals.
They're not idiots, Bill.
Well, if they think, and I've debated this on air with farmers, if they think that on a farm that's valued at less than £3 million, they're going to be affected, they are bluntly wrong.
Well, there you go. Many people, when it comes to who's right and who's wrong, and politicians and what we need in this country, will say what we need is more kind of statesmen of the ilk of Winston Churchill. What do you think to that now? There's a headline, Westminster is becoming a local place for local people, and that means fewer star politicians. Do we need more star politicians in this country or not? You tell me, and I'll see you in 2.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, we'll see cloud clearing the southeast, leaving a day of sunny spells and showers. It is going to be feeling much colder than it has done of late, though. To start off, though, to end on Wednesday, we'll see cloud and outbreaks of rain just move their way across the far south of the country. Colder to the far north, though, as we head into the evening. Still plenty of blustery showers reaching northwestern areas, a few feeding in inland at times where they'll likely fall as snow over high ground. But elsewhere, we'll see cloud outbreaks of rain slowly push their way towards the southeast and generally turning dry, but still with those showers just moving into parts of Wales and the southwest. And a very cold start to the day, particularly in those brisk northerly winds. So around across Scotland to start on Thursday, still we'll see plenty of showers around those coastal areas, and as they do move in further inland, they're likely to fall as snow across higher ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, still a chance we could see some wintry flurries around hilly areas and just to the northwest of England too. Even across Wales and parts of the southwest, a chance we could see some wintriness in the showers over hilly areas. The driest and brightest of the weather likely to be around eastern coasts across the far southeast as well, where actually there'll be plenty of sunshine around through much of the day, but it is going to be feeling much chillier than of late, particularly in those brisk northwesterly winds. So quite a change of feel as we head into Thursday, but still plenty of showers around coasts, but lots of sunshine too. You'll just have to wrap up warm to enjoy it. Highs of around 7 to 8 Celsius in the south, but highs only reaching around 4 degrees in the far northeast of Scotland, so fairly chilly here. As we head into Friday, once again, we'll see outbreaks of rain slowly push their way towards the southeast of the country, moving in from the northwest. Plenty of blustery showers behind this, but to the far north and far south of this rain, once again, there should be plenty of dry weather around. Turning slightly milder as we head into Saturday, but another chilly spell for Sunday and remaining fairly unsettled for the weekend. Bye for now.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Gary King. In London at Elephant and Castle, Kennington Park Road on the A3 still closed in both directions. Delays after an accident between Canterbury Place and Penton Place. In Surrey, the southbound M3, 2 lanes closed and delays after an accident between the M25 at Junction 2 and Junction 3 at Lightwater. In Berkshire on the anti-clockwise M25 looking very busy after an earlier broken down van just between Junction 15 at the M4 and Junction 14 at Heathrow. In Cheshire, the northbound M53, there's a lane closed and delays after a breakdown between Junction 12 at Chester and 11 at the M56. And in West Yorkshire, the westbound M62, 2 lanes closed and long delays after an accident just near the Junction 23 at Huddersfield. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hello there, Michelle Dewberry with you till 7 o'clock tonight. And if you're just joining us, you're very welcome indeed. Alongside me, my panel, Matt Goodwin, the pollster and academic, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour minister. Now, I don't know about you guys at home, but in this studio anyway, we're ready, aren't we? We're ready for Christmas. We're in a giddy mood.
We're very giddy.
We're excited about the days ahead. We're almost, you know, when you're almost ready to switch off work, but you've got to remind yourself you've got another few days. You've got to keep pushing and keep going. So we're still with you. So we are. Lots of you getting in touch as well. Lots of waspies from yesterday. People who are still outraged today as they were yesterday. That doesn't seem to be simmering down. It'll be interesting to see if Starmer changes his mind. I don't think he will when it comes to the compensation for WASPy. What do you think? I want to talk about politicians, though, because an article caught my eye today. And it was asking, basically, where are the political heavyweights? Where have they all gone? They call it Britain's Winston Churchill shortage. One of my viewers has got in touch and said, Michelle, this is a subject I think about often. I feel that we need leaders like Churchill or Maggie Thatcher. And he says, but I feel that we have someone similar in the form of Nigel Farage. What do you think to that? Do you agree with that viewer or not? David said it's simple. We don't need more people like Mr Churchill. We just need more people who tell us the truth. Simple, he says. Your thoughts on that? But do we need more Churchill types, Matt Goodwin?
Well, I'm fascinated by this story because a key person in it is Professor Philip Cowley at Queen Mary. Now, I know Phil well. I respect him a lot. He's been tracking Parliament for a long time. He says the trend towards local issues began in the 1960s. And if you showed an MP today from the 1970s or the 1980s how much constituency work MPs are doing today, they would be really shocked that we are basically overloading MPs with local issues, and that's stopping them from doing the big geopolitical sweeping pieces that Churchill and others used to do. There's also, of course, additional pressures in that MPs have got security threats today. They're being harangued on social media every day. The pay, I would argue, is not really kept up with the position. I personally don't think we pay MPs enough, which is why we're not attracting a higher calibre of MP,
we'll get
basically.
90 grand. What would you let them have?
Well, for example, in my sector, higher education, you know, we have university leaders who are on 300, 400,000 a year. I'm not saying MPs should be paid that much. Taxpayers are watching this show. They'll be spitting out their dinner. But what I am saying is, look, if you are fed up with this political class, you have to also recognise that we are not attracting the right kinds of people into politics. You know, competent, credible people that can get stuff done. I mean, I don't know about you, but in my lifetime, I can see the deterioration and the decline in the quality of MPs. And I think this local thing is part of it, but I think it's just we've made it a very unappealing job. I mean, it's not a pleasurable experience being a member of Parliament.
I think you get good, competent people from all political parties in politics, and I actually think having locally rooted MPs who understand their constituencies, their needs and their concerns has been a good thing. But it can go too far, and the volume of welfare casework, the volume of demands on a local constituency MP is so great, it can be almost that's all that they do. And I think we need more MPs. They are national legislators, they're potential ministers. We need more MPs who believe in causes. So when I was not a minister, for my first 5 years in Parliament, my cause was Europe. Now, you might not agree with me, but it shaped my thinking and it helped me to come into ministerial office with an ability and a perspective on how you drove things and how you changed things. If all you're doing is constituency casework, you don't get that commitment and cause. So I think we do need to rejig the system. But also in terms of, you know, the great leaders, whether it's Churchill, whether it's Attlee, whether it's Thatcher, whether it's Blair, I'm not sure that any of those would have coped with the divisions that we have through populism and social media, which is the environment within which current-day politicians are operating.
But I just want to add one other thing, because I think our culture has also become even more anti-intellectual than it used to be. I mean, we're not like the French and the Germans. You know, we don't have... Actually, in fairness, with the exception of shows like this, we don't have long-form, free-ranging discussion in this country anymore, and that's one of the reasons I'm committed to GB News is because it does exactly that. But if you go to France, if you go to Germany, if you go to Italy, they are having long-form, substantive conversations about energy policy, about relationships with China, about geopolitics. Here, our national conversation is so tightly managed. You know, I don't want to name names, but if you go on other broadcasters, national broadcasters and so on, you know, you're given a 30-second soundbite and that's it. Now, that is not conducive, you know, to a Churchill-type politics, to a sort of geopolitical grand politics, to high culture. We just don't really do that, and I think that, you know, we need to reflect on why that is.
This is getting dangerous. There's too much agreement. I strongly agree with you on that.
You two?
You know, and it's one of the reasons that I appear regularly on GB News, because this is one of the very few channels where you have an ability to put long thoughts into words and to openly debate things, and I think we need more of that. That's sadly lacking in our politics. I also think we need MPs to remember that they are representatives, they're not delegates. And there's been too much of MPs just having to be seen to almost parrot the views of their constituents. You want MPs who are going to make the weather and actually you know, form their views and advocate their views in Parliament and actually push for a better outcome.
I find it quite interesting that you said that you've got division in this country because of what you said, populism and social media. Do you think that's a fair assessment of what's caused the division in society, populism and social media?
No, I don't. I think those two things are symptomatic of the deeper issues. I don't think so. Social media is certainly accelerating debate and discussion, but fundamentally this is about the issues. You know, populism, Donald Trump in America, Nigel Farage in Britain, Marine Le Pen in France. They are symptoms of the fact that millions of people feel that the political class is not addressing issues that they really want them to address. If we responded to people's concerns, you wouldn't have Donald Trump in the White House. If we responded to British people's concerns over what's happening at the border or what's happening with, I don't know, what we're teaching kids in school, we wouldn't have populist politicians. Populism has always been a symptom of a deeper malaise, and I think that's the issue.
What I mean is, for example, the algorithms of the social media companies actually ensure that the only news feeds you get are news feeds that accord with your preset views. That is dividing people further and further apart. We've got an echo chamber where the only people you hear from are those that you agree with.
Yeah, but Bill, yeah, there's two responses to that. My response would be, you know, you have to throw light on things to allow people to debate and discuss. That's the essence of democracy. We all come together in the public marketplace of ideas. We discuss, we debate, we come to a conclusion. Hang on. We bargain and we compromise and we exchange views. The left's view on that issue, which, let's be honest, we've seen it during the US presidential election. Let's try and kill Elon Musk's Twitter platform, X platform. Many people on the left approach that by saying, no, let's clamp down on the public square. Let's narrow the range of free speech and free expression. And that's not the answer.
Matt, that's exactly what, and you know this, that's exactly what the social media company algorithms are doing. They are directing only the views and news to you.
You can follow people that challenge your views. I will follow you immediately after this show to prove just how committed I am to the diversity of viewpoints.
I think that we're getting a bit daft in society because now we're just blaming everything on everybody else. You know, we're all adults and we all understand that if you want to see different viewpoints and if you want to hear different perspectives, there's a way of doing that. Just use your brain cells, apply yourself and look at and engage with people that you disagree with. It's not difficult, is it? We can't just sit here as though like we're all quite dense saying, oh, it's the social media company's algorithm fault.
People go on their phones, they download their social media, and what's being directed towards them are things that they agree with. Now, yes, they can go out of their way to find alternative views, but in a busy life, that's not what most people do. And the effect of those algorithms and social media, I think, is sowing division, which isn't good for the long-term health of society.
Some people will actively run away from different opinions, and that's why you've seen a load of people come off the likes of Twitter and X and go over to this other social media because they found too many opinions on Twitter that they didn't agree with. Anyway, you mentioned Twitter, Elon Musk. There's been a load of talk over the last 24, 48 hours about whether or not he should get his hands in his pockets for UK politics in the shape of Reform UK. Would you support that? Is it foreign interference? Is it welcome? What's your view?
I don't think it's foreign interference because I think, obviously, if Elon Musk wanted to support Nigel Farage and reform, he could do so from one of his UK companies, much like if Lord Ali wanted to support the Labour Party or any other big donor wanted to support the Labour Party, they could do so. I think fundamentally...
Ali's a British citizen.
I think fundamentally this is a very important issue in that it's probably going to give reform what they've always lacked, which is resource, to give them as much money as the big players in British politics. Got 100,000 members now, nearly as many as the Conservative Party, probably nearly as many as Labour if you took away the trade unions. And I think...
But let's deal with...
Hang on a second.
400,000 members.
Yeah, but once you take away union members...
No,
let me just finish the point. I think it is significant because what the Americans are seeing in Britain is the beginning of what they have just seen mature with Donald Trump's election campaign, in that they see Britain as being in the same realignment of politics that they've just gone through over the last 8 years. And what makes Labour and people like Bill nervous, I'll let you say something in a minute, is they probably sense that actually if this reform movement gets serious money and gets serious people, because whatever you think about Elon Musk, he's a serious person, he's achieved a lot, he's the richest man on the planet.
Well, these lot don't think
then
that.
actually,
You banned him from your
then it would be very significant.
You banned him from your investment. I bet you're kicking yourselves now, the Labour Party.
No. Let's deal with the facts. Trump's victory, right? You're talking about it's a massive realignment.
It is.
You can massively overanalyse this. He lost because of the cost of living crisis, and that's the reason... Biden lost. Kamala Harris lost because of the cost of living crisis, and as with virtually every incumbent government across the
and the southern border
in the last
and woke ideology,
that is what has happened.
Come on.
That's the reality.
Donald Trump didn't just win because, and this is one of the things that I don't understand, is that why is there this reluctance to accept the frustration that people have? It seems to be globally, by the way, about uncontrolled immigration. That is the root of much division, much unease and frustration within not this country but beyond.
Listen to what I've said, Michelle. Look at the things I write. I passionately believe we need to reduce immigration, and I urge and believe this Labour government will do that. But let's come back to Musk and funding. You know, Nigel Farage fought the referendum campaign over Brexit on the issue of sovereignty. I think it is the most massive hypocrisy to then advocate that a foreigner with no real roots in this country can...
What are you talking, no real roots? Elon Musk has family in the UK.
And try to buy an election. Now,
he's not trying to buy an election.
We have rules that stop foreigners investing in British elections, rightly so. I think he's trying to get round those with loopholes.
Bill,
there is going to be an elections and a democracy bill next year, and I think this needs to be tackled.
Oh, here we go. So, no, you hear that? You hear that? Listen closely, everybody, because what you're hearing is the beginning of a crackdown on anything that interferes with the Labour government. Bill, you sat in that very chair. Bill, you sat in that very chair a couple of months ago saying you had no issue with Labour activists going to the US and campaigning for Kamala Harris. Now you've got a massive issue with people coming across from the US to campaign in British politics.
I would have an issue with it. It's about money, and money in the States dictates elections and politics.
So let me ask
I don't want that in this country.
I've got to go to a break. I was supposed to have gone, but I've got a very quick question for you. If Bill Gates rocked up and said to the Labour Party, you know what, Keir Starmer, I want to help you out. I'm going to give you $100 million to help the Labour Party. Are you telling me you'd say, no, thank you, that's foreign interference?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you know, I was a member of Parliament when I voted for the Act that stopped foreigners investing in our elections. You know, we need British people to have the ability and the right to determine their own futures, and that includes the funding of democracy.
Well, there you go. You can have the final say on that at home. Get in touch with me if you want to join the conversation tonight. But after the break, homelessness. Record sums of money now being pledged to try and fix this issue. A new sum announced today. Will it work? You tell me.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
There will actually be some hazardous weather across parts of southern Europe through the next few days, with a strong Mistral wind developing over southern France and into Corsica, leading gusts here of around 70 miles per hour and some hefty showers with that as well. Further east, and we have some heavy thunderstorms pushing across parts of Greece and into Turkey, and here we could see rainfall totals building up to around 200 millimetres. Elsewhere, there will be some fine weather around, with temperatures near or a little bit below average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Christmas canapé offers partygoers a small treat that staves off hunger and soaks up the fizz. Founder and host of Crazy Sexy Food, Hannah Harley-Young, joins me now with a toothsome selection. Lovely to see you, Hannah.
You too.
Origin of the word canapé?
Yes, French. Sort of from the, yeah, of course, from sort of the 1800s. It means sofa. So it's sort of playing on the analogy of someone sitting or lying on a sofa. It is about the garnish, traditionally sitting on a piece of stale bread or pastry. Obviously, it's evolved over the years. I don't have any stale bread for you, don't worry. But the idea is that it's something sort of garnish, something exciting sitting on a vehicle that you can put in your mouth in 1 or 2 bites.
It's obviously post-war. What is it? Is it 60s or 70s? How long have we been eating these things?
I would say around about then. And I think what's interesting, I mean, I always look towards even the 80s, a little bit sort of... later on, where it's where you sort of have that sort of the classic vol au vent, which was, you know, a little bit dry, a little bit tasteless, and I think that's why I've brought a real selection for you to show you how far we've come. Another traditional one, obviously, being your pigs in blankets. I'm going to hold off for a second before I choke. Another thing that I have to say about canapés, there are a few little tips that I must give people super quickly. Make sure they're small. 1 or 2 bites. When you're at a party, you're standing, you've got a glass in one hand, you need to hold it. There. OK, I would have preferred a glass of wine, but, you know, I can't stand these canapés where I have to put the glass down in order to eat the food. I want to do it all at once.
I couldn't agree more. You should never eat more than you can lift.
Exactly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company till 7. Matt Goodwin and Bill Rammell remain alongside me. Now, the issue of homelessness, I mean, it is absolutely appalling. I tweeted a video not that long ago, you know, I went to a supermarket, you'll find it on my Twitter, and there was about 5 separate homeless camps in the car park of the supermarket. And I went over and I spoke to them, and there was a variety of different stories about why people were there. One of them, or a couple of them, said that they had dogs and they couldn't get into hostels with their dogs. They weren't prepared to leave their dogs. Someone else, he had problems with substance. So there was so many different stories in this one car park. It looked like some kind of third world country. It was really quite striking. Well, the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, now has announced a massive cash injection, get this, almost £1 billion to try and tackle this issue. It's going to go via local councils. The bulk of this will be going to London. What do you think to this? Apparently this is going to break the cycle of homelessness. In fact, actually, I'll just hold you for a second. I'm going to come to you because I know you've been involved in councils and things like that. What do you think? Is this going to fix the problem?
I think it can go a good way to fixing the problem. And let's remember, when Labour left office in 2010, rough sleeping had been virtually eliminated. And over 14 years, we've seen the numbers go up. And the heart of this report, there's 160,000 kids who are going to face Christmas in temporary accommodation. And I have long believed that one of the challenges is that lack of housing is one of the biggest social challenges that we face. but it affects a relatively small minority of the population, and that's why historically it's not had the priority it has. It should have. It needs to have this, and I think the £1 billion is very welcome, and it can begin to make a difference. But you need a cross-government strategy, and that's what the government's talking about. It's not just about building more homes. As you say, Michelle, a lot of the people who are homeless, it's about drugs, it's about mental health and other issues that need to be tackled as well.
169,000 children were in temporary accommodation between April and June this year. Where are you on this, Matt Goodwin?
I agree with Bill. I think it is a complex issue in the sense that you're never going to resolve this issue unless you're also dealing with, mental health support for people who are, suffering from alcoholism, drug addiction, the housing crisis, how on earth we're going to fix that. But I guess where I become a little bit more pessimistic is we can throw money at this problem, but if you look at the longer-term trajectory in this country, low-growth economy, inflation's on the up, cost of living crisis is going to accelerate before it gets better. We've got a government that, I'm sorry to say this, Bill, but consistently refuses, when it comes to housing, to put British people and British young people first in the queue. And to be frank, I think they should be doing that. I'd like to see some better political choices being made by this government. And I'm worried that the underlying demand side of this problem, all those big issues, I think they're going to become more severe, more problematic as we go forward.
But, Matt, the fundamental problem is supply. In my former constituency of Harlow, you go back to when I first got involved in politics, and the local council had about 30,000 council homes. Today, it's down to about 7,000. It's not who's getting the housing, it's that there's simply not enough of it. That's why you need a major house building programme, but you need a comprehensive strategy, and you do need money. And, Matt, you say it can't be done. I made the point earlier. The last Labour government virtually eliminated rough sleeping, and that was partly funding, it was partly reform, it was partly good people leading it. So Louise Casey, who's now in the House of Lords, who led the rough sleeping initiative, you need good, creative people who've got the resources to corral the solution.
Yeah, Bill, I understand. I mean, that was also a very different economic environment going, last Labour government, largely more or less before the financial crash, or just at the beginning of it. One of the stories that went viral online this week, I'm sure you will have seen it, was the Westminster Council that had put a video online showing that, explained to people essentially how they get access to social housing. And what was most interesting about the video, and the reason it went viral, was because of just how many languages they put the video out in, explaining, in Arabic and et cetera, how people can access social housing. And of course, we have to remember that around half of all social housing in London has gone to families that are headed by somebody that wasn't born in Britain. And for many people out there watching this show, those are the kinds of viral moments that really strike home, because they say, look, this isn't about playing identity politics. It's about saying we have a choice as a country as to how we can treat people in need who are from the national community, and how we can incentivise people to contribute to the collective pot. And I think many people watching this show especially will feel as though our governments, especially Labour governments, are never really willing to put their own people ahead of others.
And again, that's just not true.
But that is true, Bill.
No, it's not.
Which bit isn't true, Bill?
Council.
Which bit isn't true?
Let me finish. Local councils have the right and the ability to prioritise local residents. But if you haven't actually got the homes, there's nothing
Labour just removed the requirement
and local
to do that.
councils do it.
Well, at the bottom line, if there's one house, someone somewhere's got to do some serious prioritisation. And I know you guys at home, because I listen and talk to you every single day, and I know that many of you are thinking that when it comes to prioritisation, we have got things quite badly wrong in this country. And I've got to say, I tend to agree with you. There's not a lot of sympathy when it comes to the train strikes in my inbox. I've got to tell you that. But look, for now, that's all I've got time for. Bill, Matt, thanks for your company. Thanks to each and every one of you at home. I appreciate you watching and listening. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow night.
We'll see a cold snap, which will quickly develop into a warm front. Boxed Boiler Repairs, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we head into tomorrow, we'll see cloud clearing the southeast, leaving a day of sunny spells and showers. It is going to be feeling much colder than it has done of late, though. To start off, though, to end on Wednesday, we'll see cloud and outbreaks of rain just move their way across the far south of the country. Colder to the far north, though, as we head into the evening. Still plenty of blustery showers reaching northwestern areas, a few feeding in inland at times where they'll likely fall as snow over high ground. But elsewhere, we'll see cloud outbreaks of rain slowly push their way towards the southeast and generally turning dry, but still with those showers just moving into parts of Wales and the southwest. And a very cold start to the day, particularly in those brisk northerly winds. So around across Scotland to start on Thursday, still we'll see plenty of showers around those coastal areas, and as they do move in further inland, they're likely to fall as snow across higher ground. Similar across Northern Ireland, still a chance we could see some wintry flurries around hilly areas and just to the northwest of England too. Even across Wales and parts of the southwest, a chance we could see some wintriness in the showers over hilly areas. The driest and brightest of the weather likely to be around eastern coasts across the far southeast as well, where actually there'll be plenty of sunshine around through much of the day, but it is going to be feeling much chillier than of late, particularly in those brisk northwesterly winds. So quite a change of feel as we head into Thursday, but still plenty of showers around coasts, but lots of sunshine too. You'll just have to wrap up warm to enjoy it. Highs of around 7 to 8 Celsius in the south, but highs only reaching around 4 degrees in the far northeast of Scotland, so fairly chilly here. As we head into Friday, once again, we'll see outbreaks of rain slowly push their way towards the southeast of the country, moving in from the northwest. Plenty of blustery showers behind this. But to the far north and far south of this rain, once again, there should be plenty of dry weather around. Turning slightly milder as we head into Saturday, but another chilly spell for Sunday and remaining fairly unsettled for the weekend. Bye for now.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good afternoon, I'm Gary King. In Hampshire, the westbound M27, there's a lane closed and delays after an accident between junction 9 at Fareham and 8 at Hamble. In Surrey, the southbound M3, 2 lanes closed, long delays after an accident between the M25 at junction 2 and junction 3 at Lightwater. Eastbound M4 in Berkshire, there are 2 lanes closed and delays after an accident between junction 5 at Langley and junction 4B at the M25. Essex, southbound M11 has a lane closed and delays due to an accident between junction 9 at Saffron Walden and 8 at Bishop Stortford. Gloucestershire, the M5 currently blocked in both directions, traffic stationary after a police investigation between junction 11A at Gloucester and junction 12 at Hardwick. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.